We have Karen Stine from the Office of Student Assessment and myself. We're going to talk about assessment, mostly Karen, but I'm here to help too, as well as I can run out there and get some questions using the mic if there's anything that you have. We have a lot. Yesterday, Karen and I, mostly Karen, we did this presentation and it took an hour, but we're going to squeeze it into a half an hour for you guys today. So we definitely can answer questions, or kind of like we did earlier, we may ask if you write them down and then we get it back to you in the email that I'll send to everybody after we get it all posted online.
Okay, good afternoon. As Kristan said, I am Karen Stine. I'm with the Office of Student Assessment. So I work with mostly considered the special population. So I work with alternate, I work with all the the accommodations, and then I kind of still help with WIDA, which is the EL assessment. So what we want to kind of do here today is just to give you an overview to make sure you know what assessments we do have and where to find everything, because we can go through this whole spiel and you're listening and kind of taking notes or not listening, whichever. But the fact is, most of our stuff, we try to get everything on our website so that you can find the information. And it is overwhelming. There is a lot to know. So we're just going to kind of give you an overview. You have a handout of this. And then almost all the screens we do have where there is a link to where you can get the information. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of talk about these 8 assessments, not too much about the formative or the PSAT, but you should have students that you do have to, that you need to do IREAD, possibly ISTAR, definitely ISTEP, maybe WIDA, the ECAs, and then ACCUPLACER. So we're going to go through each one of these.
So on the assessment website, which we've listed there below, instead of jumping between the PowerPoint and going online, we figured we'd just put the links at the bottom there. All the testing windows are towards the top of that page when you go on, and so you want to keep that in mind. And as Karen said, not a lot of you probably have ISTAR, but it is a window you want to keep in mind this year because those students will need the use of a computer, and if you're scheduling that, you want to keep that in mind too. Obviously, you're used to probably ISTEP being online. So all the windows are there. You can get them in your calendars.
Also on the website is our program manual. And if you call me, I'm going to probably tell you, look in chapter, especially Appendix C if you're talking about accommodations, because I need people to look at that before they call, because a lot of times the questions can be answered by reading that. What this assessment program manual does, we update it every year. We're not going to send it to you. You don't get it. You just have to come to us and find it. And we do keep it updated. But each one of the chapters is just a page. So if you have any questions about what WIDA is or who is eligible for ISTAR, just come to the program. It's on the assessment first page, and it has all the chapters of the program manual. There are also forms, so if you need to do date changes, any kind of testing irregularities, or like non-standard accommodation forms, this is where you would find them. And again, just DOE, go /assessment and you're right there. You'll also notice on Appendix C, like I said, that is one of our, for me, because I'm special ed and for Kristan, this is where we talk about the accommodations, what's built into the programs. Pearson, I'm still working on with them to find out exactly what are the built-in accommodations or built-in tools on the assessment. So,
and Pearson's a new vendor for ISTEP.
Yes.
And Questar is a vendor for ISTAR and ECAs. So ISTEP is 3 through 8 and 10. So we'll talk about the 10th grade versus ECAs in just a little bit. So everybody will do English, language, arts, and math, and then certain grades. So 4, 6, and 10 will do science, and then 5 and 7 do social studies. The English, language, arts, math, and science are all federally mandated, and social studies is a state mandate. And then grade 10 ISTEP is new, and again, we have slides that are coming up that you'll get more details and explain the difference between ECAs and the grade 10 test.
So on our website, if you on that first page, if you scroll down, it tells you about each one of it. Has Indiana assessments, and if you click on the one that says ISTEP, you'll see the blueprints. The blueprints are basically the roadmap for how the test is designed. So it tells you for this happens to be the math. It tells you for number sense computation all the way down to math processes, the percentage range of how much is going to be on the assessment. So you're not teaching to the test, but we want to give you an idea of what will be covered on the test. So then with the, on the same page, then you'll go to the item samplers, which are samples of the items, and those are always on every year. This year I do not think we are going to have any of the old items, that we can't use them because of passage issues we had last year. So this will give you ideas of some samples of what the items look like. And the instructional and assessment guidance tool, the purpose of these documents is to provide educators with instructional assessment guidance. So it gives you a check plus, and a check minus. So you know what is critical, what is important, and what is not so important. Not that everything is, but there are a lot of assessment, there are a lot of
content or standards that are still,
thank you, standards.
They're good standards and still need to be taught, but you could wait until later and focus on the core ones a little bit more.
And really where it says coming soon, it's just a little video saying here's how you use these. So it's not like you have to wait for that video, but it does give you a lot of good information. So it's really great for teachers to know about this, as well as parents.
So we worked together on an accommodations toolkit. We also asked different ICASE, and I know we mentioned ICASE before, and I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's a Council of Administrators of Special Education, so I for Indiana. So every state, most states have a CASE, and so we have Indiana ICASE. And so special ed directors all around the state meet frequently, and so we asked one from each region of the state, so we got somebody to cover the whole state, plus ourselves, plus InSource, Pattons. Hopefully we covered most of the ARC. And so we asked if we all could come together and work on this document. It's 50 or so pages, and it gives guidance on accommodations, the difference between accommodation and modification. It also helps, and I don't know if it was when Tracy was speaking earlier about, and we were asking questions about the accommodations and writing down if you gave them the extra test time and did they really use those accommodations or not. There's some forms in here that would be great to use after each assessment or at every year. Sit down with the student and say, okay, these are the ones we had in your IEP. Are you really using them? Do you need those? And because some kids don't want that extra time, or they don't want something read aloud to them, but we put it in there because we're just so nervous and want it to be the best for them. But are they really using it? Is it appropriate? And so there's different things like that in here that can help out in the classroom.
We've had the toolkit out for about 4 years, but we just revised it this past year. So it also has, like, if a student has a certain disability, what are maybe some things you should do in the classroom versus what can you do for state testing. So it's just a really good resource to utilize.
So this is kind of what we mentioned already before about when you are on the assessment webpage, and at the bottom it lists all the different assessments, and if you click on the ISTEP one, here's all the different extra resources that are at the bottom. And so you may want to pay particular attention to Experience Online ISTEP. So as there are different formats, and we've got some examples of those coming up, drag and drop, or if you are choosing from a list, or you have question 1 which then feeds into question 2, and so all those different forms. It's great for you, for the students, for parents. I as a parent was able to do this with one of my I tried it with one of my kids last year, and it was really good for both of us, an eye-opener. Okay, this is what it's going to look like when you get in the classroom and take the real ISTEP. Also, again, for parents or anybody, using the vocabulary is super important, making sure that those are words that are used all year long. I know, for example, with ISTAR, one of the things we've come across is equal versus congruent, and congruent was used. So if the teachers start using congruent, the kids will understand that congruent is the same as equal. But if you have given them the chance to know that vocabulary all year long and use it in context, then that would be beneficial.
So sometimes people have questions about what kind of calculators can you use, graph paper, etc. That again is right here. So and this is our public website. You don't have to have a Learning Connection account to get to any of this. This is from our public website. We do have a lot of things on Learning Connection, but we're trying to just put out as much as possible, so it is open to parents, educators, administrators, whoever, in just even our people from in the field. Okay, so ISTAR. ISTAR, if you have any students who are on an alternate assessment, those are students with most significant cognitive disabilities. Not sure if you have a whole lot of those students, but if you do, then ISTAR. We gave NCSIC last year, which NCSIC was the National Center of State Collaboratives. It was it was a student student participation assessment. So the students are now looking at things on the computer, and the teacher still can help them. They can use the computer for them. If the student answers the question, the teacher can help them manipulate the computer. So it's not like we're just putting a student in front. It's not like ISTEP where we put a student in front of them, in front of the test to take it, but the student is interacting with it. We used to have a teacher rated assessment, and that just was not, we really, for peer review and for everything else, we just really couldn't substantiate having that kind of a performance rating anymore.
Nor could any other state. They have to be based on college and career ready standards, and so yeah, you can't go with teacher rated anymore.
So Indiana, about 4 years ago, just like there was Park and Smarter Balance, we entered into a group of states which was called the National Center for State Collaboratives. That's why our test last year for ELA and math was called NCSIC. Also with that, and the reason why we really liked this group of states is because there was a lot of curricular resources. And that's the biggest thing is, yes, we have a test, and we are working on getting that test, but the test should only be on things that the students are being taught. So we have what's called, do you have anything about Project Success?
Later we'll talk about.
But Project Success is something that the Special Education Department has funded for the last couple of years, and she will go out, or there's two of them now, they will go out, they will go to your schools, and they will help you with the curriculum for the students with more significant disabilities, because that's always been an area that's been hard for teachers to find curricular materials or anything that kind of went from one school to the other. So this has been, like I said, we're really thrilled with having Project Success. And then ISTAR is the culmination of an assessment at the end. But it's not going to be one assessment, it's 3 parts. Okay. Is that going to go on? Continue, okay.
So those students take the same subject area assessment that ISTEP did, as we mentioned before, same grades as well. So their science and their social studies as well for those grades. And then here's the 3 windows. So the first part, I should say, first window is more of a placement test, which again is different from last year. NCSIC test looked just like ISTEP, where you took it at the end of the year in a larger chunk. This year, we're going to have 3 smaller parts to it. The first one is a placement test, so those 10 or 12 questions will then decide, does that student then, when they take the official test, will they be more a Tier 1, a Tier 2, or Tier 3 test, so more complex or less complex? And then they'll take the Part 2 and the Part 3, and Part 2 and 3 together will form the final score. The first one is not used for that score.
So we really wanted stage adaptive, and this is for this group of students, and to get the materials out, this is the best way to do it. So a placement test, and then they take part of the test in January, and then part of the test in May, or January-February window.
And then you'll be able to know which standards to teach for Part 2, and then which standards to teach for Part 3, and 3 is not cumulative from the whole year, so each part, the teachers don't have to worry about all of that with this population. Here's your one part, do a second assessment, and then the third one, and put those together for the final score.
So we do also have blueprints for ISTAR, and we're going to kind of go through these quickly, okay. And then we will have some practice. The sample items, but the practice test will be open starting September 21st for those that are using the ISTAR assessment with students. The kind of type of items they have are, and this is these were also the kind of items that you're going to see. Some of these are from the ECA, and then also from ISTEP. So you have the multiple choice, which is just static. You have the question, and then you just answer. You pick one answer. Another type of question is what we call dynamic. So that the student is basically picking one of the options and putting it into the sentence or into the statement. Another type would be a multiple select table, where the student would select cells within the table to indicate the category. So you're checking more.
And this example is not one that an ISTAR student would take. It's just showing you the format of how that looks.
Yeah, that's more of an, this would be ECA. This is ECA format. And then there's also 2-part questions, which is there's a Part 1, and then of course there's a Part 2. So these are only used, the tech enhanced, like what we call them, will only be used when appropriate, not just, hey, this is tech enhanced, let's use it. It's more, most of them are going to be multiple choice, and it is a multiple choice only test. There is no writing part of it. Okay, and then if you had any students that took NCSIC, we just did the standard setting, and the state board is going to look at those cut scores tomorrow, so the report should be out sometime in October.
And just like ISTEP, they receive a pass, plus, pass, or did not pass. So this is an example, and possibly you might have seen this slide before, of how educators get to be involved with assessment. It's not like we're just sitting there and we decide you pass, you don't pass, and this test fits here, and this test or this question fits here. So by going through this journey, So teachers are involved in anything that's blue up there. So when you look at item specifications, deciding on the blueprints, what is taught when, how much it's taught, what the importance is, educators from across the whole state get to be involved with this, general education, special education. When it comes to ISTAR, then definitely teachers who have those students as well are involved. Then if you skip over to the third one, during content bias and sensitivity, are any of the questions biased? Are they sensitive to different races, to where you might live in the state? And then the very last one, as you go around in the loop there, then the final standard setting and the cut score setting to decide which ones, what score equals a pass plus, what's a pass, and what's a did not pass. So teachers are all involved with that. And actually, Karen was kind enough to leave one of those meetings today to come here to help with this, and then probably have to go back.
Last spring, an email was sent out to everybody and said any teachers who are, would be willing or wanting to participate in any kind of meetings that we are having. We did our summer meetings, but we do them all the time. And again, we will have new content for ISTEP when we go to the grade 10. So if this is something you're interested in, it's usually a 2 or 3 day meetings that you come down, you stay in Indianapolis, and then we pay for the substitute, and then we, room and board and free breakfast and lunch, then you get dinner paid for. So, but it's a good opportunity because if you haven't done it before, you really get the feeling of how assessment is created. And it's, because so many people, they just don't understand how it's done. It is not done just with people in our office sitting together. It is all educators. And I really want to encourage you, because we look for urban, suburban, rural, we look for big schools, we look for small. We need to have that combination of everybody.
And I don't know that I've seen many charters on the list.
No, I don't think I have.
Rare.
So if you are,
to have your voice.
If you are interested, just email the ISTEP at doe.in.gov that email and let them know that yes, you're interested in upcoming meetings. Then what we do is once we get people that want to do this, then we check with your principal or someone in your administration, and if they say give you approval, then we work with you to try to see if the dates work. So just a heads up, that's really important. We do it all the time. Now right there, this year it's been a huge year because we had to redo everything. But as we start with Pearson next year, we always have to have new items every year. So this is something, a lot of times we do it during the summer. Not normally do it during the year like we are right now, but because we have to create new things, we are doing it during the year.
And this is kind of a repeat of what we had on the last slide, just with some specific dates. And then in the past, we did teacher rated again, and also a lot on functional skills. And so you're more than welcome to use any of those functional skills rating sheets. They are just not mandated by us, by the federal government, and so they're still out there to use as you'd want, but it's not something that you have to do.
So IREAD is the next assessment we're going to talk about. So IREAD is administered to grade 3 students in the spring. There is a summer retest. And it is based on K through 3 foundational skills in reading. So just to be really clear on, while both ISTEP and IREAD measure both grade 3 reading skills, grade 3 ISTEP and ELA measures both reading and writing standards, and IREAD measures only foundational reading skills through grade 3.
And like all the others, so there's a blueprint for everything. So you can go in and see what percentage of the test is going to be on which areas of reading, for example. So every different assessment has a blueprint. And item samplers as well. And this one is different because it also has some parent guidance. So.
And Anna was very instrumental in this. Yes. So if you know Anna Schultz, I'm glad to see you again. But she was very instrumental in getting this up and going. And it's very important. Again, we have too many students that were in Indiana that just weren't. They were getting to 3rd grade, 4th grade. It gets harder. You have to know. You really have to be able to read. So this is kind of a stopgap. It is not a, oh my gosh, let's hold kids back again. Let's find something else that's a high stakes. That's never what it was intended to do. It was intended to make sure that we give kids that good starting point so that we make sure that they can read. So as they get older, they're not falling behind.
And they're on your radar. But because if a student with disability, since that's a topic we're talking about, there is a good cause exemption. And at the case conference committee, you will decide if the student goes on or doesn't, if they need to take the retest or not. But it's a case conference committee decision. And I didn't mention, sorry, that a student with the 504 plan is not eligible for the good cause exemption.
And English learners are also can also qualify. So the ECA grade 10 change. So in 2015-16, Algebra 1 and English 10 end of course assessments are the graduation examination. So those students who are enrolled in grade 10, 11, and 12, especially at 10, if you're still going for graduation, you have to take the ECA to graduate. Now for 11 and 12, those would be your retesters. So those would be the students who took it in 10 and didn't pass, or took it in 11 and didn't pass. They still need to take the ECAs and the English and language, ELA, English 10 and Algebra 1. But for the class of 2018, that will be the last class with the graduation exam of ECA. So after that, it will be just grade 10 ISTEP.
And this kind of repeats more of what she just said.
So you have that, so it just kind of helps.
Yeah. And then here's a chart. If you're a visual learner, then you can kind of see how it phases in, phases out, which test is for graduation and which one is for accountability.
And this chart is on the website, right?
I thought so. I think
Yeah, if it's not, well, we can find it, but I mean, it just really helps. Yes?
For the ISTEP 10, do they have to pass that to graduate?
For ISTEP 10, do they have to pass to graduate?
I believe so. I'm going to say
When-
yes, because I'm not really the ECA person.
Starting the next year, starting in...
Yes, they will have to take and pass.
16, 17.
Yeah, but it just said here.
Sorry.
10th graders will, touchy. Go, keep going one more.
That one's
Yeah.
back.
10th grade students will have to take and pass the ECA if they're in 10th grade. Will have to take the ISTEP in grade 10. And I would think that it's the same as it was before. If they don't pass, then you're going to have to probably do a waiver.
But
Because the
you
waivers
can-
are not going away either.
Oh, go online and ECA at IDOE, I'm not sure what
Yeah.
the email address is, but
ECA
Karen and I are not the
DOE.in.gov.
ECA folks
Yeah.
on this. We're just trying to help share the message.
Okay, yes.
So if a student is in the 10th grade this year,
Mm-hmm.
they take the ECA and they do not pass it, next year, well, that means they'll take it in May. Next year, do they take the ECA, retake the ECA, or do they take the ISTEP?
They will be taking this year, they will be taking the grade 10.
Right.
And they will be taking the ECA if they're enrolled in the course this spring. And then in grade 11, then they would be just taking they would have to take the test until they pass. So the grade 10 is going to probably be the most tested grade this year.
So the 10th grade is going to be taking what test this year?
They're going to be taking the ECA if they're enrolled in the class for Algebra and English 10. And then they are also going to be taking ISTEP, grade 10. Yes?
So if they say don't pass, they haven't passed it algebra yet, they're in grade 10, and they're enrolled in English, so they're definitely taking both of those ECAs this spring. They're taking the ISTEP 10. Then if they fail, let's say all three of those, do they need to retake all three of those as a junior?
Not the grade 10 is like it's always been. It's not a retake. It's just you take it and then you either pass or you don't. Then there'll be probably a waiver process or something else. I apologize for not knowing for sure. I should have called Adam in as my backup. Adam Mastrucci is our ELA person, and he's on our website. So if you go to our website, he can give you really good information. But this keeps rolling out as we go, because I know there's something on the line tomorrow about, I think, ACCUPLACER going to the board. So there's really good information on the ECA part of the website. Yeah. So when does biology count? Biology is a U.S. Department of Education requirement for NCLB, and Indiana has chosen Biology 1 since that's what they've been doing for the Core 40. So students will take the ISTEP grade 10 science when they are enrolled in Biology 1.
Let's see if they have many biology questions.
So it's not
in
that
there.
grade 10 students take the grade 10 science. It's students who are enrolled in biology will take the grade 10 science.
Yeah.
So here are some more assessment. This is all about ISTEP. So again, on our website, these are just the resources. This is more all about grade 10.
So ACCUPLACER was put into place because I think it's HEA 1005. So a law that said so many kids were going to college and they need to take remedial math and English classes in college, and so they needed to do more when they were in high school to be ready for that college level. So they will take if they don't pass the ECAs as in the past, then you would need to take an ACCUPLACER test to see what it is you're still needing, and then you can work towards that so that when you get to college you don't have to do remedial work or pay for all that remedial work, and you can just start taking your college classes. And so the criteria is listed on here as well as the website to get more information about ACCUPLACER. And then, as Karen said, they'll be talking about it at the board meeting tomorrow.
Okay. For your for your English language students, for new students, kindergarten students, you should be giving them a home language survey, and if the parents say something other than English, then they should be given the WIDA placement test, which is WAPT. Then if they do not get a fluent, then they start the process of being annually assessed in WIDA. We used to be with Lost Links. We moved over to WIDA last year. It was still paper pencil. This year we're going to online WIDA access. So it's called WIDA 2.0. And that window is in January. So if you have any questions about the summative assessment, and we also have an alternate access for ELLs, which is for the students, again, the ISTAR students would be taking an alternate access.
And we were supposed to be done by now, so we're going to try
Okay.
and speed up just a little bit for you. Sorry about that. Go ahead with this one.
Okay, ISTAR KR is for preschool, so it's for preschool students. We use it for special education accountability for one of the indicators, and you have to be able to show progress, so the teachers have to do it 3 times in the student's preschool life. A lot of daycares are now using it, or home daycares, because they like it as a tool. It's a nice tool that goes over the areas of there's some language arts and math, plus there's personal care and physical personal care and social emotional. So if you have any questions about that, there is some more information on our website. But that is through the Learning Connection. It is a teacher-rated assessment, and it is used with preschool students.
And when you go to if you go to the special ed website, so for example, Chris Furby, she's the one you would contact in my department. But of course, if you contacted us, we can let you know who could help you most with each assessment.